This is the Makeup Show podcast, where we take some time every week to talk all things about makeup, from kit to career, from artistry to inspiration, and everything in between. With decades of experience in all areas of the industry, award-winning makeup artists Danessa Myricks and James Vincent travel the world meeting and educating makeup lovers. In this podcast, Danessa and James share the wealth of their knowledge and career insights with you.
Howdy, howdy, howdy.
Hello, hello, hello.
I'm Danessa Myricks.
And I'm James Vincent.
And this is the Makeup Show podcast.
Welcome, guys.
How are you, James?
I'm good, babe. It's I love that we can now see each other through the quarantine. So I'm finding it very exciting to be able to see your gorgeous glowing face.
Oh, stop it. I'm excited too. Actually, it's so weird. I'm still adjusting to the fact that we are not in pajamas eating burgers while we're doing the podcast, that people can actually I'm trying to be very conscious of what I'm doing and hope that I don't sit like for any time during the podcast.
I keep it like, what is that? What's behind me? Okay, cool.
Well,
and I hit the point of quarantine today where I picked up clippers. I'm supporting the beauty industry, and I was like, I'm not going to trim my beard until I can go to a barber, but it just
I'm actually having challenges too in this quarantine. You know, we won't talk about the hair, but this is the part that I have to hide from everyone. I just these are definitely quarantine fingers, so I'm gonna tuck them for the remainder of our conversation.
The trigger for me was people keep posting photos from past makeup shows and things like that. And other than the amount of weight that I've gained in the last 16 years, it was like, oh, like it's like, you know, the picture of Dorian Gray, like
it's so crazy.
fading.
You're so crazy. It's so funny that you said that, because it kind of like brings me to the topic that I wanted to talk about. And for those who haven't listened to the podcast before, James and I are really excited to use this form of the Makeup Show podcast just to talk about all those things that go through the minds of artists, especially makeup artists, and kind of just use it as an opportunity to chat about it, explore about it, and just create resources and solutions that we all can use just to be better at what we're doing in the artist community. So if you haven't joined us before, you know, here we are. Welcome to the conversation.
Welcome. I think for us, what we realize is that to keep the pace that many artists have to put forward every day, you know, in the best of times, to keep their career going, balance their family, you know, stay creative, plan for the future, it can take a toll. And now with everything that's happening in the world, I think more than ever, we're seeing that people need to feel like there's a support system in place. And I love that we get so many messages from people saying that, you know, that they look forward to us every Wednesday to do that.
Yeah. It does feel good, and I'm glad that we can contribute in this way. You know, it's so funny. I was thinking about what you said earlier, and the idea of all these messages that we've been getting. I mean, right now, we're all in this we have so much time. There's a lot of reflection happening. And I'm not as much on Facebook, but I know Facebook is like a huge platform for a lot of people. And over the past week, I've been getting like all these like 5 years ago, 3 years ago,
Yes.
10 years ago, like screenshots from people.
Uh-huh.
And I got one this weekend. It was me in, I believe it was 2006. It was either 2006 or 2007. It was actually the first year I was involved with the makeup show. So I sent it to one of my partners and colleagues, and I was like, oh my God, look how skinny I was. Because I really looked like a bobblehead. I had like, you know, the hair is always big, but it was actually big this way. It was like a big bun. I
remember that
hairstyle. And back then I was like hardcore into fitness, like on another level. And I was like a size 4. So, and ironically, I've been pushing to try and get back to that space. But I sent it to a partner of mine, and I was like, oh my God, look how skinny I was. And they were like, you look so much better now. And, you know, first I was like taken aback. And then I was like, you know what is so interesting? Like almost every day of my life, I'm like, okay, what else can I do to get fitter? What else can I do to get back into the shape that I was back then, or to look like what I looked like 10 years ago or 5 years ago? And then to hear someone say, oh my God, thank God you don't look like that. You look better now. It really got me to thinking. First, not in such a great way, but then I was like, you know what? I'm wondering how many things that we all have in our lives that, you know, we look back and reflect on, or issues that we have now and today, like those I wish I was, or I wish I could moments we have when we reflect back. And how many of those things really are more about limiting beliefs that we have about ourselves, and that those things really don't matter. Like I obsess about my diet and how much sugar and things, I'm fasting all the time. And for somebody to be like, please don't go back to where you were, it kind of like, it triggered me.
It's a trigger, you know, and I think that is also in this age of Instagram and Facebook, where you're seeing visual memories of yourself constantly. You know, it does bring up a lot of those things. I always say with those makeup show images, 16 years and 60 pounds ago, you know, but at the same time, so much of the work that I've done up to this point has put me in such a better space, you know, but there are so many moments from the past that were crucial to my getting here, you know? So I try and not look and be like, oh, but, you know, I think it's a natural human reaction to compare your past.
So I think so. But when I think about the moment, when I think about back then, I was like, oh my God, I have to lose weight. Now I'm about 60 pounds heavier than back then. Still having the same conversation with myself. Interesting, you talk about Instagram, you know, because we're not out and we're not actually practicing and working right now, you know, content has been a struggle for me as well. So I've been doing a lot of looking back and rewinding to like old stories that I posted or old images that I posted. And today I posted a picture that I did, I believe it was like 2016. It was like a few years ago. I posted it like it was new, obviously, because there are people who haven't seen it before. And when I first posted that picture, I think I got under 300 likes or something. And I was like, I remember the conversation that I had with myself. I was like, I gotta get better at like doing glow. I gotta get better at like making the skin look healthier. Like I'm not good enough in this category. But ironically, I posted the same exact picture and I'm reading the comments and they were like, oh my man, that I love this skin. I love this glow. And, you know, I really think that there's some conversations that I need to start having with myself. You know, there are still a lot of limiting beliefs that I have about who I am as a person and who I am as an artist. And it really like, you know, it kind of like stopped me in my tracks to really think about like how many of these limiting beliefs that we all have that are stopping us from moving forward. And I started thinking about like the whole idea of reflection. Like I'm really not someone who likes to look back. You know, I'm a very much a forward thinker. You know, I like to like, okay, it happened, let's move forward. But I'm starting to believe that there is some value of like stopping and reflecting. And yeah, that can kind of help you with what steps, you know, need to happen in moving forward. It's like, we all know that hindsight is 2020, but I really want to look at it differently. Like, you know, what does that tell me about who I am today and some of the things that I'm thinking about today? And how can I change that? How can I fix that so I'm not moving forward another 5 years, another 10 years, thinking that I'm not enough? And that's pretty much what it boiled down to. Is like, that's pretty much what I'm saying to myself, like, you are not enough. The whole thing with the weight, like I'm never the right size, never the right weight, like I'm not enough is what I'm saying to myself. And even with the work that I was doing, I'm saying to myself, I'm not enough. But with that same work now today, and the same person in the same body now today, hearing people say that it is enough, and that they love it and that it's better, there's some work that I need to do. And I don't know, I thought that, maybe I'm not alone, and there are people who are having the same struggle, and that same conversation might be helpful.
I think it's an important conversation for two reasons. I think the I am enough is such a struggle for most people, but particularly for people who are trying to pursue a career or a life outside of the structured norm. Because to pursue a freelance career, you have to have a certain amount of confidence and courage. And so that little voice can really dismantle you. If we use the analogy of weight, my first few agencies had me on diet pills. I was wearing a size small shirt, but that got in my head. And I think it wasn't until I had this confidence from being older, from building my resume of saying I am enough, that I didn't feel like I had to listen to all of these kind of detrimental voices. The I am enough is a crucial statement for those people who want to make their own mark and who want to pursue things bigger than the status quo. The other point I wanted to make, and I took some notes, is that during a period of seclusion or isolation, a lot of people do what we call in the Western world soul searching, the idea of kind of looking back. But what a lot of people don't realize, and I'm going back to so many of my social work books and things during this time, and what I was looking at was the idea of soul searching and looking at the past. They call that your salad years. Your salad years, which comes from the Writer's Circle in New York City. But the idea of the salad years was that you look back with fondness on your struggles, because your struggles eventually would lead you to where you are now.
Yeah, that makes so much sense.
That's the future, right? Yeah. But what we need to do as creatives is we should be looking back and saying, okay, well, what are those sparks? What were those motivational moments that really put me where I am today, or put me on the path to where I want to be? And I thought that was so exciting, the idea of soul searching and kind of mining your memories and remembering these aha moments, these fantastic experiences, those life-changing moments. I think it's really powerful, especially when you're home isolated.
Yeah. I love that phrase, mining your moments. I think that's really cool.
I'll write it down so we can
use it. I like it a lot.
When we write the podcast book.
Yeah. Oh, I love that idea.
A 365-day podcast calendar.
Okay, that has to happen.
Your thought for the day with Danessa and James.
Yes, exactly. I think it's really cool to understand. The reason why I love the idea of mining your moments is that I think initially when we think about the idea of looking back, we tend to find negativity in the looking back. Oh, I wish I never met that guy. Or I wish I, didn't waste so many years of my life in this place or whatever. And it's really interesting, the idea of looking back and mining for positive things, mining for lessons, mining for ideas to help us move forward, which is why I love that idea of mining for memories and spinning it into a positive way. I think is a new perspective for me, and I think I learned that lesson as it relates to my work. I think about there are so many things that I hold back from doing, or I'm a Virgo, so nothing's ever enough. Nothing's ever perfect enough. It needs a little bit more tweaking. It needs a little bit more time and research. I don't know if you've ever had that experience where nothing ever feels finished, like it's not ready to go. And, and what that lesson I learned from that image I reposted is that, especially as artists, we just need to do stuff. We need to just do it and move forward and not be crippled, by those ideals or those ideas. There is power in just doing as opposed to pushing for perfection. I look back at that time where I originally posted that picture, and I'm thinking about the thoughts that I had in my head and all of those images that I didn't post around that time because this particular photo didn't perform at the level that I thought it should be. And I thought it was saying a lot of things about me and my work. And, I kind of made up a lot of stuff in my head. And I think we all often do that. We tell ourselves stories that basically aren't true. And what this triggered for me is this, I just need to do stuff. Like I just need to like stop waiting and just do stuff because the ideas that I have, are not always true. They're not, the conversations that I have with myself are not always accurate, and you can tell by the response from other people.
I think that one of the other notes I made with looking back, sorry, and I'm just taking some notes. Looking back.
I'm in a therapy session. Like
yeah.
you wrote all the things that you need to discuss. that's you need some work.
Well, I think that one of the tools that we use in therapy and social work and psychology is the idea of looking to the past to see where you are in the present and to plan your future. Mm-hmm. What we do in looking to the past allows you to revisit your plan, right? So sometimes you have to sift past that negative, those little voices that are telling you you're not enough, you're not good enough, you're not skinny enough, you're not rich enough. But revisiting the plan, where was it where you made the decision, okay, I want to pursue makeup, for example. Remembering your path, what were the first few steps? And then you start to pull out, if we use the term mine again, you start to remember the opportunities. Instead of focusing on the negative, you start to look for the positives and you make a very mindful, purposeful decision and you say, okay, I'm looking back and I'm saying, what was the first opportunity? What was the second opportunity? And you start to put the puzzle pieces together, right? And that kind of gets you out of the negative of those memories and into the positives, because all of a sudden you're saying like, for example, when I tell my story, I say, I was eating a bagel for breakfast and lunch. And those are true stories. It really was a tough time. Now looking back at my 22-year-old self, I'm like, wow, what a great time. Like Jeremy and I were watching a TV show last night. And I said, this is our life. We lived these experiences. Like my mom never got to go to a club at 4 a.m. and dance with celebrities and do that type of thing. And,
maybe I think they never told us about it. I think maybe our moms did a little something.
But I think like what you have to do is kind of train your mind to be able to pull up those opportune moments, those things that say, well, what was the first sign that this was where I wanted to go? And what was the first door that opened that allowed me to be there? And that shifts the thought from I am not enough or I was not enough to I was enough. And when you start to shift that I was enough, then you start to pick up other little bits along the way, like survival skills. Yeah. Usually when we look back to the past, we remember a moment where a survival skill kicked in, right? And so that shows us not only am I enough, I'm more than enough because I stood up to this challenge before or a greater challenge. So of course I can handle what's on my plate now because I had a child or I raised a child on my own or I bought a home for the first time or I survived a trauma. Right? And so you're kind of shifting the conversation in your head from I am not enough to mining these memories that remind you you are more powerful than you ever thought you were. And when you start to take that into your everyday, it allows you to say, okay, well, in this present, I am more than enough because I have gotten myself to this point. And so now I can start planning for the future, remembering that I'm a warrior, I'm a mother, I'm a go-getter, I'm a business owner, whatever it is. You pick up that mining of the past.
I love that so much. What stuck out to me about what you just said? When you were talking about opportunity and the opportunity was different. And if I was able to bring that back to our worlds of work, even looking back at the work that I was doing 4 or 5 years ago, my opportunity at that time was very different. I think who I was exposed to was very different. How many people were able to see the work, how many places I traveled to, the opportunities I had to teach at the makeup show and how that opened up, more of an audience. And so it kind of makes sense. If I were to liken it to anything else, like if you think about a lot of the comedians who tell their story about their 20-year journey to being an overnight success. And, it's not that they weren't funny 20 years ago, but now they're funny in front of larger audiences, right? So they were always funny the whole time, but just now more people hear the jokes. And I think we could kind of relate that back to our work too. And yes, we're always growing and maturing and getting better. But sometimes you're doing all the right things, but you're just not in the right space, or you're just not in front of the right people, or you're not in that right opportunity. So a lot of those old ideas that we may have had aren't bad ideas, and it's not that they're not original and they're not good anymore. It's just they didn't work at that time. And that your comment really triggered that. I was actually listening to a podcast yesterday with Jay Shetty, and he was on with Steve Aoki, I believe his name is. He's a really famous DJ. And he was talking a little bit about his story. And he has a new album that's coming out. And he was talking about a beat that he's had. I believe that he said he's been sitting on this beat somewhere between 7 and 13 years that he's had it. So he created it so long ago. And right now, that same exact beat, the same exact music was something that he was able to incorporate in this new album that he has. And it's just the right space, it's the right time, it's the right person on the track. Yeah. So I think it's really cool.
So many times. His sister was a model, Devin, who you've met. Yeah.
Oh my God, I had no idea that was his sister. Did you know that his father started the Benihana chain?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, those are the families I used to dream about waking up in. Like, where's my family business?
It's so funny.
I want to talk about something that I think is important right now because of what you were just saying. I also want people that are listening to this, and I know we have a lot of listeners who are in the same boat. When you grow up in the margins, there is major work that comes to the point of accepting that you are enough. Mm-hmm. When you grow up female, when you grow up as a Black female, when you grow up as a gay man, when you grow up in poverty or socioeconomically, not having the security that maybe other people have. Mm. The journey to I am enough is even more important. And I think that this really is an industry made up of people who were on the fringes, were on the margins. And so
I checked like 5 of those 6 boxes.
Yeah.
Everything except for a gay man.
Yeah, but it's like for a Black woman to have an international business that is beyond what anything is doing right now, that is truly global, that is meeting international people, that is changing the way artists work with color. It takes work to get to that place, but it isn't always just the physical work. It is also the emotional work. It's unpacking all of those times people told you, no, you are not enough to do this. And I think that many of our artists have those experiences. When you go in and you say, okay, I'm going to be a makeup artist, and people say, that's not a real job. Or when you say, oh, I'm going to take this class, and people say, you're a single mother. Why would you waste money on a class? Those are also the voices that I think we can look back on those moments and say, I stood my ground. I stood up for myself. I picked myself up again and again. I put myself forward again. I dusted myself off. I did the hard work. And so not only am I enough, but I'm a survivor, and I'm adaptable. And I'm talking a lot because I had all of these thoughts when you were talking about Steve Aoki. Adaptability is key. And you hear me saying that a lot in our podcasts, on my Instagrams right now. Creatives tend to be adaptable. But one I wanted to talk about adaptability was, what was the idea that sparked the change that motivated you to adapt? There's a great quote that I took down when I was researching this that I thought was so important, and it's Charles Darwin. And I think so often now we're like seeing Darwin because of crazy people that are like going out in the street and doing all of that. But Charles
Yes.
Darwin says, "It is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent that survives. It is the one that is the most adaptable to change." And I think that's so powerful, because when we're talking about the I am, when we're talking about, you know, all of these ideas of looking back to the past to plan our future, the strength of adaptability, those moments where you made major life decisions or altered your course completely to trust your gut, right? To pursue that fire in your belly. Those are the beautiful moments that kind of allow you to say, hey, this is where I need to be right now. I've done this work, right? And I am enough not only at this moment, but I will continue to be enough because I've always been enough. And I know that's such a therapy way of thinking, but I think it's so empowering for people who are trying to figure
I
out the
agree.
now, you know, and think about what's coming next.
I agree. You know, one of the things that I love so much about you, James, is that, you know, we can talk about all these different ideas, but you always have a remedy or a tool or like a practice that, you know, can kind of like move us from that space. We talked about reflection and kind of seeing
Blushing, Danessa.
no, but like the question is, okay, I get it. And, you know, how do you move forward? What are some things that you can do to move yourself out of this space? And you always have an answer.
Yeah.
You always have a solution. I don't know if there's anything else you want to share. Like, okay, I recognize there are opportunities. There are times that I'm still continuing to say I'm not enough. And I've had the awakenings and the experiences that I've had just over the last few days. But then, like, what's next, you know?
Well, you know, I think for me, sense memory is a great way to trigger the moments that we want. We're talking about mining, you know, sense memories. I think we all experience that. How many times have you tasted something and said, oh my God, this reminds me of my mother? Or you smell something, say, that's my grandmother's house.
Or hear a song and takes you right back. Yeah.
And so the idea of using your senses, smell, taste, music from the past, that can trigger memories and special moments that then you can bring into kind of building your now, your I am enough now. And we talk every episode about meditation and journaling, but for me, I bring my senses into those moments as well. And so I pulled together a few things.
Of course. See, this is why I like talking to you on and offline, because you have so many amazing
well, I think everybody knows I've been doing a lot of study of herbs and kind of how we use them in our daily lives. And so the idea of teas is a great memory trigger for a lot of people. One, because of the taste and the smell and all of those things, but two, also because most people tend to drink tea, they sip it and they relax. And that relaxation allows you to kind of tap in and let your like little memory skills go out there. And some of the teas that are great for memory, sage, turmeric, and lemon balm. And so sage, I have some sage here if you're watching the visual. You can use organic sage and you can brew a tea, or there are teas available on the market that use sage. Turmeric is so great for so many things. I use turmeric in smoothies every day. It's great for your movement. It's great for inflammation. It's great for kind of letting your body rest and relax. And you can put turmeric into any tea, or you can mix it into a chai. And you can do something called golden milk. So
golden milk,
I love golden milk. I do that a lot at night as a way to relax. Turmeric, chai, black pepper, ginger. You can mix it into a dairy milk, but I usually do it with coconut or cashew milk. And this is available at Whole Foods, but you can also just kind of mix your own, which is really what I tend to do. And the other thing is lemon balm. Lemon balm in tea is great for triggering memory, but also it's a detoxification. So it allows you to get rid of all of the stuff that you're bringing with you. It's a bitter tea, and anything bitter is going to clean the liver and the kidneys, but it also tends to be a memory trigger. And I love that before bed. It's a really nice, relaxing tea. Now, if you're not a tea person, the other thing that you can do is take a bath. This is
You like to wash.
yeah. This is a little bath tea that I put together. We have it at Rebels and Outlaws. It's called Sister Witch. And this is one that I'm making.
Favorite candle. Do you have a candle?
Yeah, we do.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, we do. It's I have it as a bath tea as well. It's organic lavender and rose, and it has a little Himalayan salt in it. And it really is about communication and memory and relaxation. And that's really the key. I'm giving you little tips on herbs that you can use and different things that you can do, but it really comes down to relaxing your body so that your mind can get in a place where memory is there, and then playing a song. That may be something your parents used to listen to on Sundays when my mom was cleaning. She would always have albums playing. And that smell of cleaning product, or music brings it back. Or or I think about my aunts doing my cousin's hair, that smell of lavender of the hair product. It was getting ready for Sundays and doing all of that. And I think those triggers, positive triggers of memory, can be so powerful in reminding us of who we are. And when you remember who you are, it allows you to put your feet down and kind of ground yourself and stand your ground and say, this is who I am right now, and this is what I'm capable of. And that is so powerful. The I am statement is one of the most powerful that you can make. So
I love that. So for the layman like me, it's get out a paper and a pen.
Yes.
Get some tea with some nice music in the background and kind of journal these ideas to help you move forward. So we're basically rewinding a bit, taking a moment to reflect, and then using those ideas we get from our reflection to kind of reboot. And
not everything with rebooting has to be aggressive. Sometimes it is in the calm that we are able to find the strength to deal with the chaos. Really.
There's, what, I guess the last thing I would say, because I can actually talk about this for years, but it's important that we eventually end these podcasts.
I know.
There is a meditation that I listen to every night by Wayne Dyer. And I think, let me see if I can get it really quick on my phone. If you just go to YouTube and put in Wayne Dyer, a night meditation, he reads out loud a meditation from a book. And I think I mentioned this book on a podcast maybe 10 or so episodes ago. It's called 3 Magic Words. One of the most impactful books that I've ever read that just changed my whole mindset on how I think about energy and our existence on the planet. Mm-hmm. But he reads one of the last meditations from this book, and I go to sleep with this on. And actually, when I wake up in the morning, I listen to it again before I move into other meditations. But it speaks a lot to some of the things that we talked about today. So I would encourage everyone to listen to this. It's an easy one to, and literally it's the only one that will come up. Let me see if I see it really quick. Since we are live, it is called, no, it literally says Wayne Dyer night meditation. And then he also, it says meditation before sleeping by Dr. Wayne Dyer. Super simple. And then the I am statement you mentioned a lot. He also has one, I am that I am meditation. That's pretty awesome too. So for those of you who have lots of time and are all over YouTube, I think you'll really enjoy those 2 meditations because they really align to what we talked about today.
I think give yourself permission to remember that it is normal to struggle with your own self-confidence. It is normal to feel like you are not as good as, that you're not enough. I think that sometimes we don't want to admit, that we feel like we're not strong if we admit that we're in a struggle. But I think that this, when you brought up this topic, I think it was so important to me because this is work that I have to do every day. And I just appreciate you pulling this forward and putting it out there.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for continuing to push me to move beyond my fears and my limitations. Like even us being here, doing this podcast, it will be on YouTube. One of my biggest fears is being videotaped and speaking in public, and like people seeing me live is a big thing that I struggle with. And I know that sounds really weird because I'm always traveling and presenting all over the world.
And you're so good at it.
No, it's like the scariest thing for me. So it's like you're forcing me to do better and to move beyond that. So thank you for that. And thank you to all of our listeners. You guys, you have no idea how important you are to us. I mean, we bring these conversations to you on a weekly basis as if we have it all together. We don't. We just like talking and sharing the things that we've learned and the things that has helped us to grow over time. And we appreciate you guys just joining us on a weekly basis and having these conversations with us. So thank you for your love. Thank you for the community. Thank you for all your amazing comments on Instagram, the comments, our 5-star rating. Can you believe, James? We are still at 5 stars. It's so exciting. So I really thank you guys and appreciate you sharing the podcast with people that you know. It's exciting now that it's available on YouTube as well. So continue rating and reviewing us and sharing us with your friends.
Thank
and
you.
We love those comments, right?
We love the comments. We love the messages. I can tell you, on Instagram, we get so many beautiful messages from people who say, like, this is just what I needed today, or I wasn't sure, what I was going to do. And I think that doesn't just speak to us, that speaks to the community that we are part of. And we feel so fortunate to be connected to so many beautiful artists. And this family is strong, and we are here for you guys. And thank you for being there for us.
So thank you guys. We will see you next week. The Makeup Show podcast with friends. Love you guys.
Bye.